Welcome to Think and Grow Rich with Life Mastery Consultant Christi Corradi. This is week 3.
We are in week 3 of Think and Grow Rich. Let's start with our gratitudes I'm proud of. So I just have to say I am grateful that I get coffee in bed every morning. And then I'm proud of the work that I'm doing on my project for Alpha Omega and this new project that I'm working on and how I think it will really be in service to people, and proud of myself for putting it together. So today the chapter is on auto-suggestion, which is basically affirmation, and the way you guys know, and you've been studying this for a while, that what we think of, what we pay attention to, is the thing that we create or manifest. And so this is why when we say, what is your greatest discontent, this is why this is such a powerful tool, because it tells us where our attention is, even though we may not want it. And we have not been told that we can have control over our thoughts. We have not been taught that. To teach that, I think, to our young people is a really powerful tool, and teach them how to get in control of their thoughts. One of the tools for that, just as a little reminder, is like the 5-minute candle meditation. Sometimes people don't know, how do I control my thoughts rather than them controlling me, or how do I have my thoughts rather than them having me? Or another technique is noticing what you're noticing at every moment. Like, what is my thought here? What is my direction here? What is my speech here? I was listening to another teacher, another master, and they said that thoughts actually have weight, like they have volume to them. And I thought, whether I can understand what he was saying or not, it's a great imagery that we hear that our thoughts have power, but to think of them as being voluminous, that they have volume and that they stack upon each other as building blocks, was a really great image for me to see how our thoughts really create our experience. So we want to pay attention to every thought that we have as much as possible, and then to choose, do I want to have this thought or do I not? And so using our discontent is a great tool to look around. And it's just an evaluation. Look around your life now. What is in your life that you don't care for? Are you experiencing financial stress? Are you experiencing relationship stress? And then rather than trying to fix that thing itself, yes, of course, you want to take the steps in the world of fact to deal with the things that are in existence in the world of fact. But the truth of it comes down to really paying attention to our thoughts. And then what this chapter is really talking about, and if you read it, and I'm going to have you go through these steps and we're going to talk about them. This is like one of the first documents that was really put out about this type of thinking in a common language that we could understand it, because this philosophy has been around for a long, long time, even back in the ancient philosophers' days. But this particular document was written in a way that people could start applying it. And that's why it was so important that it was about money. Wasn't that it was really about people getting money, but it just could relate to people and to their discontent that they were experiencing. Think about when this came out. This came out around the time of the Depression, or just after, I think, anyway. I'm not that good of a historian, but something like that. But if you think about it, it was a time when people really were concerned with their financial existence, and our society had grown into being more evolved around the money system. And I think there became an awareness that it was a system and it wasn't the thing that people were really wanting, but it was the thing that people were able to look and see where their discontent was. So I think that's why this was an important document. And Mary has said this to me, and I didn't quite get it until actually this chapter. She said to me, you have to do it the way the law works. You can't do it the way you want to do it. You have to do it the way the law works. Well, how does the subconscious mind work, or how does the auto-suggestion work? And I've thought of it often as the idea of how do you change a habit, and I think of the brain and that, you have to actually change the neural pathways or carve a new groove in as a pathway in the brain. And how do you do that? Just like the Grand Canyon was formed, you have to do it with repetition, 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 repetition. And as I was reading this chapter, I asked myself, am I doing it the way that it works? Or am I trying to do it my way? And just when it's convenient, have the thoughts that I want to have. And then when I don't want to be involved in the rigor of creating things the way I want, I kind of fall back to leaning on, well, what happened to my magic wand? And why don't I get to have it this way, and fall back into the victim? So are we really putting the rigor into doing this that it requires to create not only our riches, but the practice of having our mind as our tool rather than being at the effect of our mind? So the title of this section is number 1,
Self-Confidence Formula. Number 1, I know that I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action towards its attainment, and I here and now promise to take such action.
So this is really an opportunity for us to ask, we've been studying this for a while. Are we going to commit? And I have to do the same. I look at my daily practice journal, and especially lately, there's been a lot of gaps in my daily practice. And sometimes it's because I don't have my book with me, and it doesn't mean I don't daily practice, but there's been really a lot of gaps. And am I committed to this? Are you guys committed to this? Where do you guys stand on this concept of the rigor, in a sense, that it takes to be in this work or to choose to do this work? One of the things that we all know, and that we can at least put one thing in place, is the kind of health that we want to experience. So even in using something such as health, or just choosing something that you really know about, put it into practice with this, is even a first step, because sometimes we think about the whole overwhelm of our whole vision and doing it on a daily, that can be overwhelming. So what's a step in the direction? Maybe just to take the one piece of, say, health, or something that we know absolutely, and even work with that in developing the habit. Think of how that helps us develop the habit. Is your result showing the result you want? And I just realized how, I teach this stuff, I live this stuff, I have it in my head all the time, but do I actually apply it? And I think that's where this chapter took me to the most, in really choosing or committing to really listening to what it has to say. Because there's another section in there, too, that gives you the formula of having your vision and so forth. I remember at camps I used to tell the kids, this is the good news, the fact that your thoughts create your experience. And they go, but look at my results out here in the world. I'd say, yeah, but this is the good news. It tells you can make a change. This is the time you can make a change. Number 2.
I realize the dominating thoughts of my mind will eventually reproduce themselves in outward physical action and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person I intend to become, thereby creating in my mind a clear mental picture of that person.
Okay, so who has a rattle around 30 minutes a day? I do. So no wonder we're getting the results we want, right? If we're not committing to 30 minutes a day. And then to think of how many minutes there are in the day, and if I really want the life I love living and to share my gifts out in the world, which is a really key part of this, then why am I not willing to commit to 30 minutes a day? That's a small fraction of the day. It's like being in it. It's like, yeah, I can read my vision every day, but do I spend 30 minutes? And I will tell you right now, I'm hesitating. I'm on the fence whether I am or can or am willing to put 30 minutes into it a day. So I have to also be in acceptance of, then that's the results I get. Even that hesitancy in itself is going to show up in my life. So one of the things he says at the end of this chapter is once you read through the whole book, read this particular chapter over and over and over again until you get it inside you. And it's like getting it in you in a molecular way. So one of the things I notice that I often fear is really interesting is, what if this isn't true? And what if I'm going down the wrong path here? And what if really life does control me, or the circumstances and habits? This is one of my paradigms that comes knocking at my door so often, even though, 90% of me knows this absolutely is true. There is that doubting Thomas inside of me that says, you could be being tricked. You could be being taken advantage of. This may not really be true. And it's always a choice if you're aware. I mean, I'll tell you, this little 10% of a boogeyman can take over the whole other 90% in me forgetting in a moment. It's like when my son backs into another person's car. All of a sudden, everything's about the circumstance, and oh my gosh, the insurance rates are going to go up, and blah, 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 blah. And if I wasn't in this practice, I would not be able to come back around to calming that 10%. I mean, if I wasn't in this practice, it would be much greater than 10% anyway. But to calming that 10% and just looking for the good in this, first of all, and then seeing it as a miracle. And it actually turned out to be an amazing miracle. But I'll tell you, I was pretty freaked out. I could write a whole hilarious story about the little events of the last week. My product, which is called the Toolkit. And so I asked Aaron, so that people see how this works, I want you to help me with the video. And I said, let's just start first. I'll just videotaping you exploring this. I mean, he's watched me work on this, but he doesn't know exactly what it is. He hasn't done these processes that I have in this little toolkit. And so I had him just, let me film you the first time running this through. And he did. And one of the first processes is called feelings, facts, truth. And it's a little whiteboard that you write your feelings on. So in the video, he goes, okay, let me try this. Okay, so my feeling, anger. Okay, the fact, I backed into someone else's car. Truth. And he's like, truth. And I was showing it to a friend last night, and he goes, what's the difference between truth and fact? He said this out loud, and Aaron's on the video, as he's watching the video, and Aaron goes, oh, truth, I'm responsible. And I was like, yeah. And then he says, not the other guy. And it's so funny, it's like, what do our thoughts go to? Oh, that guy parked the car in the wrong place, or blah, 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 and he just really got it. And just that we have the ability to have these tools of seeing the truth. And of course, if I was doing this in a process, then I'd take him to it. But I was letting him just run with the whole thing. But where we want to go with that next step is then an even higher truth. And so then he was doing another one of my processes in there, which is this it's called my thermostat frequency. And he put down, again, that he backed into a car. So it's obvious that it was really on his mind. And he said, well, that's about it. So the frequency scale was from 0 to 100. And he said, so this is about a 10 or maybe a 20, but kind of a low frequency. So he gets that stuff. It's so funny because I don't really teach this stuff to him, but he gets it, obviously. And then he goes, okay, so if I turn the dial up, I'll make it about a 60. He says, and that's pretty good. That's over halfway. And then he reads the little instructions, and it says, if that's your frequency, what's your new thought? And he said, I made a mistake, but I learned from my mistakes. And I just went, wow, he's getting that now. Isn't that great? And wasn't this an incredible blessing? And the other miracle blessing was the other guy just said, oh, that's all just going to buff out. Don't worry about it. Because it was an old beater car. He could have taken it. And Aaron also realized that how it happened was he was angry at his dad when he went pulling out of the driveway. That his thought created his experience, like, boom, right away. It's just been an amazing Aaron story week. Then he lied to me and told me he had finished some work for me, and could he draw the money out of my bank account? He happened to have my card. And I said, yes. Well, he hadn't done the work, and he was going to get on the freeway to go get something to eat, and he had the two $20 bills sitting on his front seat of the car and the windows down. Guess what happened? Both $20 bills went flying out the window. I said, do you think there's any association between you lying and the money flying out the window? Isn't that amazing? And so then the last little piece of this story, which is really amazing, is that my brother was moving some of my mom's stuff down here, and he was supposed to help her move stuff. And my brother, who was moving it, was really sick, and we didn't want to get Mom sick. And he said, can I pay you, Aaron, to go move her boxes for her? And he paid Aaron $60. It was almost like after he came clean, after he righted his actions, after then another opportunity came in for him to make even more money. That's why I just think that this is so powerful and why I wanted to create this toolkit. So anyway, read number 3.
I know through the principle of autosuggestion that any desire I persistently hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through some practical means of attaining the object. Therefore, I will devote 10 minutes daily to demanding of myself the development of self-confidence.
What is one thing that we can apply this principle to this week, that you are going to hold for yourself for that 10 minutes, and how you're going to do that, what that looks like to do that? How will you know that you're truly committed to this? What is the action? What is the result of actually being able to see that you're truly committed to this? Let's get even more concrete. What is one thing you would like to manifest? Let's put it that way. And are you committed to 10 minutes a day to put yourself in the self-confidence of creating that result? Remember, our tendency is to go right to the action step, when really, remember, thought creates our feelings, creates our actions, creates our results. So if you can move into 10 minutes of seeing, holding, experiencing this beautiful result that so inspires other people, and you move into that place and that confidence, then think of how different it'll be when you actually do sit down at your computer. Hold that in mind right now. Now turn the gauge up, say to like 60 like Aaron did. What would you see outpictured then as a result? This is the arena where we can, in essence, affect other people, is through the vibration. So yes, you can choose to speak freely in your vibrational quality, but to imagine and see that everyone in your life meets you at that vibrational level. That, in a sense, brings their vibrational level, and it also gives you a measurement. So go ahead and read the next one.
I've clearly written down a description of my definite chief aim in life. I will never stop trying until I have developed sufficient self-confidence for its attainment.
So that's about writing our vision, and I'm going to talk to that in a minute, and then putting the time into the vision. So what's the last one?
I fully realize that no wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I will engage in no transaction that does not benefit all whom it affects. I will succeed by attracting to myself the forces I wish to use and the cooperation of other people. I will induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve others. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity, because I know that a negative attitude towards others can never bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me because I will believe in them and in myself. I will sign my name to this formula, commit it to memory, and repeat it aloud once a day with full faith that it will gradually influence my thoughts and actions so that I will become a self-reliant and successful person.
And therefore then results, right? My thoughts my feelings and their actions and then my results. There's that formula right there. And what I love about this is that what we give out in the world is a gift to the people around you. Does it bring them greater freedom? Does it bring them, it's like, and in our vision, in my toolkit, does it bring greater freedom? I mean, I've already seen it happen in my son's life, right? So in that chapter is also, I just want to talk about the vision piece of it a little bit more, is that I love the idea that when you write a vision and you put the dollar amount, you want to put the dollar amount, especially while we're in this Think and Grow Rich. You want to put the dollar amount, and then, and I love that this is a little backwards than the way we've been taught to write a vision, is I want to create the dollar amount, and in exchange for this, what I will give in return is, and to really think about that this week as you maybe go back and work on and refine your vision. And I did this with my current vision, and it was really empowering. It helped me tweak some of the things that didn't quite feel right on.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Here are 2 exclusive podcast listener offers. First, for a limited time, podcast listeners can work with Christi in person at a deep discount. Christi offers a unique coaching modality of her own creation that helps clients discover their own answers to where they're stuck and how to move forward. As one of her clients puts it always works. This transformative process is designed to help you identify blocks and create breakthroughs in your personal and professional life. As a thank you for listening to the podcast, you're eligible for a special discount. Normally $97 for a half-hour introductory session, podcast listeners get a $70 discount automatically applied if you use this link, masteringtheartoflife.com/podcast-IWD-offer. That's masteringtheartoflife.com/podcast-IWD-offer. And that link is in the podcast general description as well. Second, you can get the entire library of Mastering the Art of Life with PDF notes and worksheets for each lesson, plus bonuses at no cost at masteringtheartoflife.com/9-month opt-in, all one word, masteringtheartoflife.com/9-month opt-in. That link is also in the general podcast description.